All right, Mount Baldy now. I'm just barely starting to get in shape again. Starting all over. It's just life in the big city. So, where I left off, because I did left some things out from that point I was making about death. Again, there can never be anything but consciousness. Lack of awareness is not a place. Any awareness is a place. Any consciousness is a place. Any amount of consciousness, any amount of acknowledgement. But where something can't acknowledge, there is nothingness, emptiness, no existence. And therefore, this very insight that people like the Buddha had thousands of years ago is something that only now science is catching up to realizing by doing all of their tests in the world of theoretical physics on how a large percent of the particles that comprise the known universe can't exist unless they're being looked at. And so considering that, human beings and all life on Earth can't be everywhere in the universe, and looking at every celestial body and the entire void of space and the entire cosmos, then there's a possibility that either this is all being looked at by some grandiose mind, or, just as interesting and maybe even more, that there is actually a vast hierarchy of minds that are looking at all of this collectively and inwardly and outwardly. Like the little Russian doll that you can keep opening, and the same doll exists in a smaller form as you go down. That is a metaphor for how the grandiose minds beholding this entire universe may function. This vast grid or matrix, if you will, of networked minds to different degrees that are all acknowledging this. And so all it is consciousness. It's just all pure consciousness. We have no way, mankind in our current state, humankind in our current state of scientific knowledge, still have no way of being able to test or deduce conclusively what inanimate parts of this world possess consciousness and what parts don't, if any doesn't. That this all might not only be figurative consciousness because it's being looked at, but it might all be literal consciousness. All of these rocks in this bottle, everything inanimate and animate amongst me right now. This phone and all of its internal functions that perhaps energy is the spirit somehow. and it passes through the body, and the body is awareness. Energy is the soul, and the soul passes through the body of consciousness, and everything is a body. Everything is a conduit. There's, in other words, so much more metaphorical about the literality of all this that we can't conceive it in our limited viewpoints, occupying these limited metaphorical and literal vessels. Known as physicality. I don't mean to speak too vaguely and esoteric for you. I just, perhaps I'm, getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but I don't think I have to worry about it because nobody's watching this anyway, which I'm happy about, I think. It doesn't matter. I just need a place to say all this where I don't have to worry about editing myself. I swear to God, editing all the other stuff, everything else I do in life is my scourge. Having to edit, not only to make things seem decent morally to people, but to also make it seem decent in quality to people. In the meantime, my precious life ticks away. And now, all of a sudden, I'm a middle-aged man. And it's all because I spent so much time editing and meticulously crafting what I wanted to present to the world, only to eventually realize that the world's tastes really don't work that way. They're too busy refining the airplanes that they build and to be safe, and all the cars and houses that house our lives dependably and safely. They don't want to have to worry about refined art when they're done with that. Anyway. So yeah, there was a lot more about the consciousness thing, death and consciousness, how, I mean, there is a lot more that can be said about it. There's infinite amounts that can be said about that. And, if you really think about the ramifications of this, about the fact that we have no choice but eternal life. Because all there is consciousness. You can't die and then experience death. There's no such thing as experiencing death other than just the process of dying. The moment that's done, you are going to wake up as something else. Because what else can there be? If you die and then you stay experiencing nothing, think about that, please. Just realize how impossible that is. There's no way to experience being nothing. You have to experience being consciousness to experience anything. You have to be conscious in order to acknowledge or be anywhere, in order for any time to pass, or any events of any kind to pass, or anything to pass. There has to be acknowledgement. And so to die and then float somewhere empty in darkness for all eternity is both a a scientific and metaphorical impossibility. It is impossible. It is impossible for there to be anything but eternal life. So, you are going to live forever, just as different beings. And unfortunately, if you're really attached to this particular being, this particular life and everything, all the gifts that it has, especially if you're a human being, a being like that, if you're someone or something that has all the powers of a dominant intelligence on the planet that you occupy and your species occupies, ability to acknowledge vast amounts of data in and around you. And that is something to be grateful for, of course. So you can't take that with you to eternal life. It's not like the heaven mythology where, I don't think this is what the Bible meant either. I'm pretty sure it didn't, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the Bible. But I'm pretty sure it didn't intend that whoever named this process, whether it was Jesus or one of the prophets, one of the other disciples, I don't know, one of the other prophets, one of the disciples, I doubt they intended that, your soul goes on to heaven and brings all your memories of the life that you left behind on earth. I'm pretty sure that even the Bible understood that you are shedding everything about your physical being when you die. You can't take memories of anything. All this past life memory. There's nothing about your physical mind, your brain, and your physical being, the mind that your brain houses. Nothing about that can continue into another being other than just the consciousness, just the awareness, just the fact that you will always wake up as something. That's the thing. You're not going to wake up as me in someone else or something else, some creature. I'm not going to wake up as this person right here in a salamander. It doesn't work that way. Consciousness is itself the thing. That's it. It's the only thing. We might be experiencing different parts of it at different times, but there's a likelihood that it's still all one consciousness. Yes, a lot like the story of the egg, and that whole thing that I talked about. Or just simply the fact that it is all, forget the egg, really, seriously, because it really did not touch on the important part, which is that there's more of a likelihood that this is all one consciousness, that this is all one soul. And I'm experiencing it as Dean right now, and when I die, I will wake up experiencing it as something else, perhaps experiencing it as my mother, or as an ant that I stepped on today. Whatever comes next that I wake up as, it could be something that was a part of this life, or a part of some other life, or some other dimension, or part of the universe. Who knows? But if it's all one soul moving through everything, then it's not subject to time the same way that a life form like you or I is. And it can basically go back or forward or move through any life form in the universe or anything that's conscious at all, whether or not it's something that you or I can perceive as a life form. So yeah, you can't take this with you. No one can take anything with them past death, other than the fact that you're going to wake up as something else. That is all the one soul, is that I will wake up as something else, and I've already woken up as you, or I will wake up as you, and you will wake up as me, and we will wake up as all of this at different times and beyond for eternity. That's what we take with us. So yeah, let me have my moment. It's cool that I can have this moment with you because you're not actually here with me right now. Of course, I would prefer to have this moment with you, but I needed to be able to say all this uninterrupted, unfettered, just a pure expression as twilight fades. I think that was all I had to say about this particular topic, but maybe I'm wrong. It'll resurface in other topics that I talk about because, this aspect of death and consciousness is, obviously so deep that it connects with lots of other aspects, deep aspects about existence. So it'll reoccur. It'll be a connector to something else, I'm sure. But yeah, it's not that death doesn't exist. It's that it is just it's like a train track shifter. That's what death is. It interrupts, unfortunately. It'll interrupt the track you were on. But that's still all it is. All right, folks. Howdy dowdy. See you on the flip side.